Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this independent off-tube studio commentary. The game at the Gtech Community Stadium has just got underway. It's Brentford taking on Newcastle, and something's got to give because Brentford have been excellent at home this season, but they come up against a side who they've really struggled against since they've been promoted to the Premier League. Newcastle enjoying some really good results against Brentford since that time. Just a one draw for Thomas Frank's side. Other than that, it's all been defeats against Newcastle. So Eddie Howe's side will arrive at the Gtech this afternoon, hoping they can try and break up this excellent home form that Brentford have had. Newcastle on the road over the last few games or so have been solid, and of course they'll be buoyed after that 3-3 draw against Liverpool in midweek. It's myself, Szczerbakowicz, and Nathan Wastell taking you through the action. Nathan, this is a tough one to call really because of the fact that Brentford have been so good at home, but Newcastle, they do play well against the Bees.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with what you've been saying. It's all about something's got to give because they've been so fantastic at home. Brentford only dropping points to West Ham and they didn't even lose that game. Thomas Frank has built a real fortress at the Gtech. As Newcastle, bit hit and miss, but when they do turn up on the day, can be a real threat. So I think we're in for a fantastic afternoon of football.
Let's hope so. Two sides that are certainly better on the front foot than they are defending, and Brentford trying to get on the front foot here early with Mbeumo down the right-hand side. He finds Wissa, who's crossed from the right-hand side, is overhit, and that's out for a goal. Just to remind you, the 2-11s very quickly. Flecken in goal for Brentford, a back four of Vandenberg, Collins, Pinnock and Lewis Potter. Yoan Wissa and Norgaard are the holder midfielders with Mbeumo, Fabio Carvalho and Yoan Wissa as the attacking three, playing behind Igor Thiago. Makes his first start for Brentford. For Newcastle, it is Pope in goal, back four of Livramento, Scher, Byrne and Hall. It's Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton as the midfield three, with Murphy, Barnes and Isak as the attacking three. And here is Harvey Barnes down the left-hand side, getting towards the edge of the area, in towards Isak, who turns well and lays it off, and it's a strike coming in. It's off the bar. It's an absolutely thunderous effort there from Sean Longstaff. And Flecken was beaten. It's just the woodwork that keeps the clean sheet for Brentford inside the first 2 minutes.
It's really nicely worked by Newcastle, really free-flowing passing, I should say. Lovely touch by Isak, put it through the legs. Longstaff had one thing in mind when he picked it up on the edge of the box. Struck it really cleanly, thunders off the bar. Early warning signs for the home side.
Absolutely. If Brentford give Newcastle any kind of space in and around the box, the Geordies will certainly look to try and take advantage. But here come the Bees now down the right themselves, although still under a lot of pressure here inside their own half. Wissa having to turn away from Bruno Guimaraes, going back towards Collins. Still under pressure there, going back towards Mark Flecken. We mentioned how good Brentford have been out at home, but they've been very ordinary on the road. Really struggling for points. Just a one draw, and that was away to Everton. Other than that, it's all been defeats for the Bees this season. Away from the Gtech. They're slowly trying to get away from their own penalty area now. It's still plenty of pressure from Newcastle. This is one of 3 games being played in the Premier League at 3 o'clock. Other than this game, we've got Villa, Southampton and Palace, Manchester City. Those other games are available on our service, as will be Manchester United against Nottingham Forest, which is the 5:30 kickoff. In case you missed it, the early game today was postponed due to the adverse weather conditions, so we did not have a Merseyside derby today. But in the meantime, Brentford have got into the Newcastle half. It's back over on the left-hand side, and we're getting word of an early goal at Selhurst Park, and it doesn't sound like it's a goal for Manchester City, so it could be a very difficult afternoon for Guardiola if that does come through. But here come Brentford now down the right with Mbeumo, gets to the edge of the area, the ball looking for Igor Thiago, but it's straight to Fabian Scher, who clears it towards Isak. He holds it up and finds Barnes down the left-hand side. There's an overlap there with Lewis Hall, but it's a strong challenge there on Isak in the middle of the park. I think he was trying to turn to thread that ball back to Lewis Hall. He's brought down on a referee. Simon Hooper gives the free kick. See from Collins, it's a sneaky good little one. It's almost like a backheel trip there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone for a little pirouette around the corner. It's definitely a free kick. Started brightly the away side, really on the front foot in the early stages of this game, but. Well, Brentford, they'll hold some real confidence at home. They'll know what they're capable of. A lot of football to play, but in this opening 4.5 minutes, it's been a good viewing.
It's been, yeah. Newcastle certainly trying to do what they can to push at Brentford. It is Daniel Munoz, by the way, that has scored for Crystal Palace as they take an early lead against Manchester City. I think that if City were to lose again today, he would expose a lot of frailty that Guardiola's side have at the moment, as we can see Eddie Howe, they're really barking at his players. I think he really wants them to get at Brentford in these first few minutes, not make it comfortable for the home side at all, as Collins now brings the ball out for Brentford, out towards Lewis Potter on the left-hand side, trying to get away from Jacob Murphy. Right-footed ball into the penalty area is Not really sure what Lewis Potter was looking at there. He's got two players in the middle and one over on the right, and he sends a cross which is just straight out for a goal kick.
Yeah, the idea is there, the execution's off. They did have a man at the back post in a fair bit of space, and Mbeumo arriving late. It was the right idea, it was a good run, getting it on the right foot and gliding it in, but like I say, the execution was just off. Big fan of him. I think he's a fantastic footballer, Keane Lewis Potter. He's got a fantastic career ahead of him.
Well, he had a slow start at Brentford. I think initially he was sort of used as an emergency left back, but now he's sort of grown into that role, and the fact that he's been given a bit more licence to play in his more natural role of being a forward player has certainly benefited him as well. As pressure here down the right-hand side for Vandenberg. He just about gets this away from Harvey Barnes. With Nathan Collins, he looked up, he does play a long ball over the top, he's aiming for Igor Thiago, but that is over hit, and it's over Fabian Schär as well. He can just let that go all the way through to Nick Pope, who doesn't waste any time. He rolls it out straight away to Tino Livramento. I should imagine both of these sides want to keep the pace up early. Interesting thing I saw earlier today, they're proposing that goalkeepers that hold on to the ball for too long or take too long over goal kicks, that could be awarded as a corner kick to the opposition, which I say it would certainly speed things up, because that's one way that things can really be slowed down in a game.
Oh, absolutely, and we know how important set pieces can be in football, so giving the likes of a corner up just by delaying the restart, it's an interesting one. I didn't quite read exactly when they would bring it in, but
it's a proposal at the moment. They haven't actually sort of confirmed that it is happening, but they are trying to do what they can to speed up the game. It's certainly not a bad idea, but back to the action here. It's Newcastle down the left with Harvey Barnes, two Brentford players holding him up, and well, I thought for a second it might be a corner kick there. I think Barnes, although he's not too animated about it, I think he was probably expecting a corner as well, but it's just out for a goal kick in the end.
Yeah, he's done okay. He's up against two, slalom in between them. My initial thought that it was a corner. But the man that I was just about to mention is now on our screen. Anthony Gordon had a good night the other night, didn't he, against his boy, the team he grew up supporting. But obviously, due to fatigue, Eddie Howe said in the press conference for this match, goes down to the bench. But a good opportunity for Harvey Barnes. Yeah,
absolutely, because certainly when he comes off the bench, Harvey Barnes, he tends to score for Newcastle, doesn't he? Certainly that one away at Wolves in particular is one that springs to mind. Absolutely fabulous strike. But here come Brentford with a lovely long ball here from Norgaard to pick out Mbeumo. Edge of the area, gets it onto his left foot, holds onto it, and goes for goal, and it's in the back of the net. Well, Newcastle, they would have known that Mbeumo wanted onto his left foot. They let him get onto his left foot, and even when it looked like they were closing him down, he just about managed to get enough of an angle for the shot. Pope doesn't move, and it's in the top corner.
It's a brilliant goal. It's absolutely fantastic. The ball over is good, but it's the touch that makes it. It gives him that extra second to take it under his spell and drive at the back line. The way he took it down on the top of his left foot, just killing it dead in front of him. And like you say, there's only one thing in mind he wanted on that left foot. They allow him onto his left foot far too easily, cuts it into the top right-hand corner. It's a superb finish. It's brilliant, and it's taken less than 8 minutes for Brentford to take the lead at the Gtech.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I don't like to pick on a younger player there, but Lewis Hall is at least 5 or 6 yards behind the rest of his teammates. If he's in line, then Mbeumo's a mile offside. Doesn't do enough to stop Mbeumo when he gets to the edge of the area, and it's clever from Mbeumo because just as Burns closing him down, he manages to get it behind Burns' back and into the top corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Far too easy. We've seen the replay there. Lewis Hall, he's just let him float inside, taking a bit of a nick off a calf of, who I believe maybe Bruno Guimaraes and maybe Sean Longstaff. But the shot it's brilliant. But it's far too easy for him. It's made far too easy in the end. But take nothing away from that. The touch, the cut inside, the finish. It's all absolutely brilliant from the Brentford wide man.
Yeah, and a frustration for Newcastle, of course, because they did hit the woodwork inside the first 2 minutes. They've had a couple of bright moments there as well. And we were just getting a replay of that Brentford strike. We go back to live pictures here on our off-tube studio commentary, and it was Newcastle responding straight away. It's Isak. He gets the ball a long way out, and his effort goes a long way wide as well. He hits it a long way over the bar. But that's what Newcastle need to do. They need to get back onto the front foot. As I say, if you try and sit back and allow Brentford to come at you, then they will come at you. But famously, the Bees aren't the best team at defending, and they're not the best team at soaking up pressure either. So, to say, this is certainly not all over for Newcastle. Brentford are one of the worst sides in the league in terms of holding on to leads, and that's been the case since the beginning of last season. There's still plenty of encouragement here as Newcastle try and get forward. That's a lovely ball from Longstaff to pick out the runner down the right-hand side. It's Murphy into the penalty area. Back to Longstaff. It goes for goal. It deflected almost when it went through like a decent pass to Harvey Barnes. It's only partially cleared. It's with Isak now down the right-hand side. He's got that overlap from Murphy. Back to Livramento now. Edge of the Brentford penalty area. Livramento with no options, playing it back towards the halfway line. Here is Fabian Schär and Dan Burn. And looks up, goes back over towards the right-hand side. A bit more space for Murphy this time. He does have an overlap, but he plays an even better ball in towards Guimaraes, whose ball into the penalty area is straight at Flecken. But that's exactly the right response from Newcastle. Straight away trying to put pressure on Brentford, and it almost paid off.
Yeah, they were just continuing where they left off in the early latters of the game. I mean, they came out the block so quickly that you do deem that they thought it'd be so important for them to score first. Now they are on the back foot. But like you say, the response there, the passing down that right flank was brilliant. The movement was as well. Just the execution. I think it's set up for a very interesting watch for the rest of this game.
Here come Newcastle again. Isak gets the ball into Bruno Guimaraes. He's got overlap here from Livramento, but it's Jacob Murphy who goes for goal. It's deflected and it's into the back of the net. Well, the Brentford players have got their arm up for an obvious offside as far as they're concerned. The flag doesn't go up for the time being, and just 3 minutes after Brentford take the lead, Newcastle are level here at the Gtech. We'll wait and see whether or not there's any kind of argument as to what Brentford was suggesting, but I'm not so sure that there is an offside. I'm not even sure if it actually deflects off Isak in the last second. Anyway, we'll wait and see from the replay, but just the sort of response that Eddie Howe would have wanted.
Oh, perfect, absolutely. And I mean, it'd be very interesting to see this. I think it was a shot from Livramento on his left foot. Edge of the box, or is it Murphy, I should say. Shocking, well, he's onside. I think he has headed that in, and if he has, credit to Isak, because he got whipped in with a bit of venom.
It did. I don't think it's a cross from Murphy. I don't want to do him a disservice there, but yeah, I mean the offside appeal, I think, is just habitual. Players just put their arm up just in case, don't they? Because looking at that replay, there's no hint of an offside. I mean, Collins does dive forward at the very last second, but that was way after Murphy had taken the shot or the cross. So in any case, it's all square now. Barely 12 minutes on the clock. So we were expecting an open game, and so far we've got one.
Oh yeah, it's delivering and then some. That's a brilliantly taken goal from Alexander Isak. We've seen a couple. We've been gifted a couple of goals. Christmas come early for us, for sure. We've just seen a couple of fantastic goals, and there's a long way. The point I was going to make for Newcastle is there was a long way to go, and that's what they had on their side. But they've got back into this game in a matter of moments, and it just took a shot come cross. But Isak still had a lot to do, diving down as low as he did. Like you say, the marking. We talked about Brentford's defending. The marking wasn't tight enough. Would take nothing away from that finish from Alexander Isak.
No, well, let's say they got possession as soon as they kicked off. Newcastle started piling the pressure on Brentford. Brentford couldn't clear their lines, and it paid dividends. But now Brentford are responding here down the right-hand side, and Mbeumo threads the ball into Carvalho, who tries to sneak that one past Nick Pope. But it's just a little bit too light, the effort in the end, and it's straight at the goalkeeper. And Pope bowls this out straight away as Newcastle looking to try and get on the attack here with Murphy. Switching play from right to left to pick out Barnes. He heads this one down for Lewis Hall, but that one is easily cut out by Mbeumo. He plays it back towards Collins. It's now with Norgaard. Collins again just holding it up, playing it back towards the edge of his own 6-yard box. On clearance now from Flecken up towards the halfway line. That one is taken down though by Livramento as Newcastle. 30 minutes on the clock. I would say that for most of that time, Newcastle have been on the front foot. Really, hasn't been that much in terms of the home side dominating. Newcastle have seen most of the ball. And it's important now for Brentford that they try and sort of match them with a little bit of pressing here. Otherwise, Newcastle are going to get even more comfortable, and they're pushing forward down the left here are the Magpies with Hall, and he's got an overlap there just ahead of him in Barnes. He goes back in towards Isak. Around 40 yards out from goal. Plays it across towards Fabian Schär. Just having to backtrack slightly. Livramento in towards Murphy. Now it's Longstaff. To Bruno Guimaraes being closed down, but Newcastle still in possession. Linton now back to Longstaff again. Maybe a worry this for Thomas Frank. His side have barely had a touch of the ball other than clearing it since they've scored. And Newcastle, of course, have scored in the meantime themselves. Now it's with Longstaff again. Still down that right channel. Isak there's got support from Livramento. His ball into the box is cleared, but it's back over towards that right-hand side. Murphy heading it back towards Livramento. Closed down by Fabio Carvalho. Isak then turns away from two Brentford players, but runs straight into Igor Thiago, who is back covering at the edge of his own area. Now Carvalho back towards Thiago, just running into a bit of a cul-de-sac there. I think Igor Thiago, I should say Fabio Carvalho, I think was expecting a free kick for absolutely nothing there. And Newcastle back in possession here with Bruno Guimaraes towards Dan Burn. It's on the halfway line now. Lewis Hall down the left-hand side for Barnes. He takes on Vandenberg. Just dives in front of him but doesn't get the ball. It's still with Harvey Barnes. Plays it in towards Joe Linton, and now back towards the halfway line Everyone in this Newcastle outfield are getting a touch. It's now on the right-hand side again with Jacob Murphy. Just turns away from Lewis Potter, gets a cross in. He wants the goal kick there, Lewis Potter, and he gets it. Bit of a lucky deflection there for Brentford, or maybe even a lucky decision. But this is an excellent response from Newcastle.
No, absolutely. Moving it really nicely, remaining patient, not forcing the issue when they don't need to. Moving it really well, look confident when moving the ball. Brentford, since scoring just on the back foot ever so slightly, just need to get themselves back in the game, get a foothold on the ball. Make sure this game doesn't really run away from them in terms of, not seeing the ball. They are the home team, and they're fantastic at home, and they need to show why this afternoon.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be the biggest test I think that Brentford have had at home this season. It's certainly proving to be after 15 and a half minutes. Long clearance from Flecken. Up towards the half line, bit of a fight for it in midfield. Yoan Wissa doesn't win it first time, but Brentford do keep possession, and now it's Fabio Carvalho pushing forward. He finds Norgaard at the edge of the area to goal scorer Mbeumo. It's got Norgaard on the overlap. Oh, that pass to him wasn't particularly good, and as he slides in there, Christian Norgaard, he actually puts it out for a goal kick in the end there, the Brentford captain. Will be Nick Pope to restart play, but it's important that Brentford do try and just get in Newcastle's faces a little bit. I think the last few minutes were a bit of a wake-up call because there's just a little bit too much freedom for Newcastle. Yeah,
very passive for Brentford in the last few minutes, and that's given Newcastle a bit of an easy ride in possession. Like you say, don't show them a lot of respect, get in their faces, show them why you're unbeaten at home this season. But unfortunately for Newcastle, it's been a fair easy ride in terms of having themselves on the ball, moving it around. It's been some nice passing, and it's been a very end-to-end opening, 16 and a half minutes. It's been a fantastic watch so far.
It has, yes, and after that, a long clearance from Nick Pope. Brentford win it back in midfield. They wanted to send it up to Yoan Wissa, just too many Newcastle bodies in the way, but it is the Bees in possession here in midfield with Norgaard. Square to Vandenberg. Gets the ball away from Harvey Barnes, but Mbeumo under pressure there from Lewis Hall, so it's back now with Norgaard again. Still doing what they can just to try and keep that. They're not playing too high on offside line, but they are making it just a little bit more difficult for Brentford to find space just at the edge of the area. It's gone back to the halfway line now here. Collins to Pinnock. Lewis Potter now down the left-hand side. Under pressure from two Newcastle players. He skips past both of them though, and he gets to the edge of the area. Lovely one. It's a ball in towards Wissa. It's just a little bit too short. It's an important challenge there inside the penalty area, I think, from Dan Burn. But you mentioned that you like Lewis Potter, and we'll come back to that in a second, because there's a real mistake at the edge of the Brentford penalty area. Isak is in on goal. It's going to be 2-1, surely. Flecken makes an unbelievable save. Goodness me, the last Brentford man back, I think it might have been Collins. He slips and just presents the ball to Isak at the edge of the area. Isak runs in, the angle is tight, he gets away from Flecken, but he's just being a little bit too relaxed about it all, and then Flecken is able to get a hand in and palm the ball away from the foot of Isak, when really it should be 2-1 to Newcastle.
Yeah, I agree. Isak's being too lethargic and lackadaisical about that. He got past Flecken fairly easily, but he was so nonchalant in the build-up to it, just taking his sweet time about it, and then that's given Flecken a chance to get back and make a brilliant save.
Well, here come Brentford now at the other end, but it's a heavy touch from Igor Thiago after that ball in from Lewis Potter. He couldn't quite control it there, the Brazilian, and it's out for a goal kick to Newcastle. We'll see this again. Terrible mistake that from Collins. He just loses his balance, loses his footing, falls over. But then there's Isak. I think the credit to Pinnock for rushing back into his 6-yard box, because that just forces Isak to stop, make sure that his next touch gets it away from the Brentford man on the line, and great work from Flecken just to get the ball away from him.
Yeah, that's a great point. It gives Mark Flecken half a second more just to make that recovery. Isak needed to think about it, but like you say, he's just been too slow on it, on the ball. Mark Flecken, credit him. What a brilliant recovery. In the end, but again, it's another wake-up call for Brentford, caught far too easily in possession there, in a very dangerous position, isolated against Alexander Isak, exactly where you don't want to be.
No, absolutely. I think that it's a point I've made at the start of the game. Brentford are not the best team at soaking up pressure, and for a team that like to play out from the back and like to give everyone a touch of the ball, some of the touches from the defenders especially does put the Brentford team under a bit of pressure there, as we saw. But Newcastle now are guilty of losing the ball inside their own half. Thiago just gets in the way, and it's now with Mbeumo down the right-hand side. He's got an overlap here from Yoan Wissa. His cross is charged down by Lewis Hall, and it's out for a throw to Brentford down the right-hand side. They do have Pinnock, who is a bit of a long throw specialist. I'm not sure if they're going to actually get it. They are going to get him across to take this one. So Mbeumo leaving it now for his defensive teammate. And Pinnock is going to try and launch this one as far as he can into the penalty area. have plenty of players to aim for yet. The linesman's just pushing him back there because he went over to get a towel to dry the ball, and in doing so he nicked a couple of yards as well, so he's been told to get back to the original throw-on position. Now the Jamaican international can launch this one into the 6-yard box. It's way too close to Nick Pope, but then I thought Nick Pope had enough time to comfortably catch that, but he doesn't want to take any chances. He punches it and it'll be a Brentford corner. Yeah,
it's a really funny one, isn't it? That was my initial thought as soon as I seen it. Why didn't you just catch that in two hands? You had a little bit of time, a little bit of space, but you know, if he went to grab it and then threw it in his own net, then you'd be saying, why didn't you just punch it clear? So it's one of them, isn't it? It's just sometimes if you're not confident on it.
I think generally speaking, goalie coaches now are teaching the keepers to punch it just because it is that little bit safer. He does get it away from the line at the very least, even if sometimes it would take the sting out of the attack completely if he could just take the catch. But it's going to be an in-swinging corner here from Mbeumo towards the edge of the back post. Good header away by Lewis Hall. It will be kept alive here for Brentford by Lewis Potter, but it's a long way from the penalty area. He pumps the ball back into the box, and that is a very comfortable catch there for Nick Pope on that occasion. He doesn't waste any time. He gets it out quickly here to Livramento down the right-hand side. Longstaff in towards Bruno Guimaraes. This is where Newcastle can really surprise and hurt Brentford with a quick counter, but the pass to Livramento is way off there from Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle captain with his hand up to apologise because he can certainly do much better than that. And it's a throw on to Brentford now down their left-hand side, but no surprise. There's still plenty of Newcastle players here pressing the edge of the Brentford penalty area. So Lewis Potter has got to choose his destination for this throw very carefully. 3 or 4 players that need to just come a little bit closer now. Still no options here for the former Hull City man. So he gets it in towards Wissa, who's had to drop deep. Now he's under pressure there from Longstaff. It's a very risky ball from Wissa at the edge of his own box. Norgaard just about gets it to Collins, and Brentford just about avert the danger there in front of their own penalty area. And they're very nearly playing themselves out of possession anyway, but Yarmoliak now holding it up. But this should all be encouragement for Eddie Howe and his coaches that if you send bodies up, then you can put Brentford under real pressure.
Yeah, and it's a funny one. It's no disrespect to that Brentford back line, but they look like two different teams. When they're in possession and they're going forward, they're absolutely terrifying. But at the back, they just look slightly shaky, and if they have a high press on Newcastle, there is openings there.
Yeah, they've won the ball back again here at Newcastle. They're down the right-hand side now. Livramento's ball into the box. Good strong header away by Pinnock. It's kept alive in midfield here by Dan Byrne, who's allowed himself to push a little bit further forward. Plays it to Lewis Hall, and then it's back with Fabian Schär. That's a poor ball from Schär. It's straight to Carvalho, and Newcastle have got plenty of men forward, and now Brentford can hit him on the counter. It's Carvalho's ball out towards Thiago on the left-hand side. He just takes a touch and a little bit too long with it now, but he's got support arriving, and there's a strike coming in, which is over the bar. Brentford have wasted that opportunity, really. It's Yarmoliak with the effort in the end over the bar. I just saw a little bit of frustration there from Fabio Carvalho when he played that pass out to Thiago. I think he was hoping the Brazilian would have just laid it off a little bit quicker in the end.
Yeah, and when you pick the ball up like you do with such a poor pass out from a centre-half, you need to hit them while the stove's still hot, you know, the iron's burning, get at them, and just a little too long on that left-hand side. They look vulnerable there at the back. Newcastle caught out with a lack of numbers, but yeah, didn't move it fast enough, and in the end, shot over the top.
Well, it is the team moving it fast enough, though. It's Newcastle with Livramento down the right-hand side. He's got all the way to the penalty area. It's Isak's ball into the box. 2 Brentford players go for it. It's only headed out towards the edge of the area, and the strike coming in from Bruno Guimaraes is only inches wide. It's a fabulous strike there from the Newcastle captain. Flecken was at full stretch, but the ball going just wide of the post there. But again, this all happens from a Newcastle goal kick, and it's just too many Newcastle players going forward, and that is not far away at all. It's a fabulous strike there from Bruno Guimaraes. It's an inch away from striking the post, I would say. But we're over the halfway mark now. 24 minutes gone here at the Gtech. It is Brentford 1, Newcastle 1. It will be Nathan to take us through to half-time with Newcastle with an injury, it appears.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Joe Linton down on the floor. That's not what Newcastle fans would want to see right now. I can't really see what he's holding his shoulder up, but there's a bit of chit-chat and discussion between the two sides. It's been a very entertaining, open 24-plus minutes. We're just getting replays on our screens, independent off-tube studio commentary of the goals. I mean, the Bryan Mbeumo goal. It's one of them goals you can watch over and over again. It never gets old, the touch, the cut inside, and the finish. And the Newcastle goal wasn't half bad either. A different type of goal, but the finish was absolutely fantastic. Lovely diving header. It's Alan Shearer, that, isn't it, in the way he's put that in the back of the net.
Absolutely, I'm sure that Mr. Shearer will be waxing lyrical about that later this evening on another service. But the point is, I mean, it's that thing they always talk about. It's having those reactions, that instinct as a forward to know where to get yourself there, and it's the fact that Isak was able to get himself into that position and also get the header down. But Joe Linton is off for the time being. Stats in this game: 3 efforts from Brentford, 2 on target, 5 from Newcastle, but just the 1 on target, which was the goal.
Brentford just at the back, Ethan Pinnock at the minute. There has been a goal at Villa Park. Aston Villa have taken the lead by guess who? The man that, when he plays, he scores. John Duran has given Aston Villa the lead on the 25th minute. Ball over the top, looking for Wissa, and big Dan Burn, you're going to have to fly a bit higher than that to get it over the big 6'7" man from Blythe. But Brentford back on the ball in an attacking position. Carvalho just looking to make something happen and feeds it to Norgaard, trying to sweep it out to that far side to Keane Lewis-Potter. Just couldn't find him. Interception by Tino Livramento. On his overlaps, Jacob Murphy's a brilliant recovery challenge by Norgaard in the end, stabbing it forward, just couldn't get it away. Maybe the wrong option, but fantastic recovery challenge by the Brentford skipper in the end. It's very finely poised, this game. It's been a brilliant opening 26 minutes at the Gtech. We're anticipating a fairly competitive game, and it's really what we've got. And I mean, Wissa scored in his last 6 home games for Brentford so far. He's had a brilliant return. Is he one short of Brentford's all-time top scorer? Is that right, behind Tony?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's getting close to that, Wissa, which is impressive when you think how many. I think that's during the Premier League era, though. I think obviously Tony would have had a few goals for Brentford before that time as well. But the fact that Mbeumo and Wissa are sort of sharing the goal scoring this season is very important, of course, because there was a real concern that after Tony left there was going to be a real drought of goals, which hasn't proven to be the case. Of course, Igor Thiago has to step up because he was signed in the summer as the long-term replacement for Tony. Managed to get himself a recurrence of his knee injury in his first pre-season appearance, and this is actually his first start for Brentford, having made a couple of appearances off the bench. So he needs to get a little bit of match sharpness, but that's important, I think, for any team. Newcastle are the same, of course. You need to get goals from a few channels, because if you rely on one goal scorer, it's always going to be a problem if that one player is injured or out of form.
Newcastle just on the ball on the far side. Tino Livramento just on halfway, just moving into the Brentford half. Swept into Isak, just about took it under his spell, but well dealt with by Brentford in the end, getting bodies around, and Pinnock just a little bit of pressure from Bruno Guimaraes. Had to think about it, but scoops it away as far away from his own goal as he can with his left foot, all the way through to the man that's recently retired from international football, Fabian Sharp. Just organically makes his way over to the near side this time, and Harvey Barnes. He's going to look inside. That's a really poor ball inside. Gives Wissa, that man we talked about, a chance to get a shot on goal, and scoring the goal. We talked about 6 home games he's scored in a row. We'll make that 7. Really, really poor ball from Harvey Barnes. Gives it to the man you don't want to give it to. Opens his body out, sweeping it into the right-hand corner. Brilliant finish. Brentford 2, Newcastle 1.
It doesn't work with lottery numbers, does it? You say a lottery number, then it happens, but it works. It works with Brentford goal scorers at home, doesn't it? But it's all Newcastle's doing, unfortunately. It's just one loose ball in midfield, and that's all you need when Wissa's in such great goal scoring form at this very stadium. And the DR Congo international gets another goal to his tally this season. It's with Harvey Barnes, and it's always a risk. If you're going to play diagonal balls behind your midfield line, you need to make sure it definitely gets to one of your defenders. He was playing that in between 2 players, really, and Wissa can't believe his luck. All he's got to do is just get that away from Cher, and it's still a great finish. I mean, take nothing away. It's a giveaway of possession, but Wissa's still got a lot to do. Yeah,
absolutely. 3 goals in this game, not even half an hour gone. 3 fantastic goals. And Pope at full stretch, couldn't get there. May have just got a fingertip on it. If I looked rightly at the replay, that's how good of a finish it was, right in that corner. And I mean, Harvey Barnes needs to look at himself. I don't even know who he's aiming for at that point with the pass, but it went straight to the feet of Wissa, which gives me the indication that he was aiming for Wissa.
Well, it's a weird one, because, as you say, it's hard to know who he was passing to, and as I say, why was he even playing that pass? There were players forward, but Newcastle give it away straight from the kickoff.
Looking vulnerable once again. Mbeumo, right-hand corner of the box, just getting it back on his left, feeding inside to Wissa, goes down, no real touch. Looked at Simon Hooper, the ref. That's a lovely touch by Isak, taken away from his man. He's got a lot to do. He's on halfway on the left side, trying to play it forward. Well dealt with by Brentford, getting the bodies around the big danger man in the Swede. It's a strong challenge from Sean Longstaff, just about gets away with it. And looks like the advantage was given, and it will be a free kick. It's one of them tackles where you do get the ball, but you cut through your man as well. It's always going to be a free kick. And when we talked about Crystal Palace taking the lead at Selhurst, looks like Manchester City are back on level terms with guess who? Erling Haaland. We've just been indicated that it is an equaliser. Sometimes they are ruled out, due to VAR and whatnot. But as it stands, Man City are level at Selhurst Park, which sounds like a good game there, but I think we've got the pick of the bunch in the Premier League, because so far it's been a fantastic Premier League outing. It has
been a very entertaining watch. I mean, if you've got a side in this game, it's a little bit more of an up and down, but it's still obviously as a football fan, you can still sit back and enjoy it. Two teams that are much better going forward than they are defending. Brentford now with this free kick, Flecken trying to send it close to that Newcastle penalty area.
A couple of yards inside his own half, floating it into the area, drops down edge of the box, shot comes in, not a million miles away, I don't think. Fell very kindly in the end. I believe it was maybe Fabio Carvalho on the end, yeah. But it looked like the linesman has flagged for offside. I didn't quite pick that one.
It certainly could have been Carvalho himself, unless there's been a Brentford player who's gone for the ball with the initial free kick being taken, and somebody must have already been offside. I can only assume that's what's happened, and the linesman with a little bit of a delay has confirmed it. But barely half an hour on the clock. It feels like this game's been going on for a while because it's been that entertaining. But here come Newcastle.
Right hand side, Jacob Murphy. He's got a good cross on him. The number 23 for Newcastle. Not a good cross this time. Really cursed that one. He's forcing his way in. Ball comes in low. Harvey Barnes, a little bit of space edge of the box. Harvey Barnes, it's 2-2. Just after the half-hour mark. It's you go one, we go the other. Brentford score, Newcastle score. Brentford score again, Newcastle score again. Picked it up in far too much space in the Brentford area. Makes amends for his mistake. Finds the bottom left-hand corner. Flecken couldn't get there. 31.5 minutes on the clock. Brentford 2, Newcastle 2.
Well, it's a fabulous finish from Harvey Barnes, and he'll be delighted, of course, because he made the mistake that led to Brentford's second goal. But what on earth are Brentford doing defensively here? Harvey Barnes has got, it's not exactly, he's got 3 or 4 square yards of space around him, and there are at least 5 or 6 Brentford players in and around the penalty area. So what on earth nobody's watching Harvey Barnes. It's far too easy for him. When he gets the ball, it's not actually a great first touch, but he's still got time to get a second touch, turn, and get a shot away before any Brentford player gets anywhere near him. And he nutmegs Pinnock for good measure as well. So it's fabulous from Harvey Barnes, but it is abysmal defending from Brentford.
Yeah, it's not great. He is not picked up. Pinnock goes to closing down with the old cricket bridge block, but unfortunately for him, a little too late, and it's gone through his legs into the bottom left-hand corner. And like I say, Harvey Barnes will be a mightily relieved man, making up for the mistake of giving away that second goal. Going forward, the football's been fantastic. Some idyllic passing, some superb finishing. But defensively in this game, it's sort of lacking. We've seen 4 goals in 32 minutes, and it's sort of the telling story.
Absolutely, yes. I think both managers could give a bit of a glaring look to their defensive coach right now, couldn't they? But then part of that, of course, it's not just down to the defensive. It is the way that Brentford are set up. They do like to have this sort of fluid style when they go forward, and for inexplicable reason, it seems to sort of translate to what they do in defence as well, where there just doesn't seem to be any kind of man marking at all. Which, of course, Brentford aren't the only team that have sort of ditched that kind of defensive style, but you can't justify having one player in your own penalty area with so much space to get onto the ball. It's going to be a free kick here for Brentford. The referee, Simon Hooper, wanted to give the advantage, but Carvalho was caught in the face there.
He was. Bit of a high boot there. Simon Hooper looked to play advantage. Looked like Brentford may have just been away, but he has pulled this one back. He seems to be okay. Two teams that are in fair few amount of entertaining games week in, week out. Of course, Newcastle played that 3-3 against the team sat top of the table. That was, looking back on a replay actually of that boot, that was a little bit wild from Sean Longstaff. Did clip his cheek, a bit more contact than I anticipated.
Yeah, the intent was to get the ball, but there's got to be a more sort of health and safety sort of consideration there from Longstaff. As I say, it's a good thing he didn't really catch Carvalho flush on the face there, but here come Brentford now through the middle.
Really good triangle play on this near side for Brentford, logging down the line for Wissa, who just picked up a yard of space. Joe Linton just feeding it to Jacob Murphy, just shy of the centre circle in his own half. Bruno Guimaraes, the architect of everything going forward for Newcastle, drills the ball out to the near side to Isak. He's running at the Brentford back line, and Mbeumo coming back to help out his defender. He'll be happy to see him coming to twos up on Alexander Isak. Nice 1-2. Hall, left-hand side of the box, drills it in low. Good defending in the end by Brentford. They need to clear the lines, though. May have just conceded a corner. They have. Maybe just a bit hesitant trying to clear the lines there.
Yeah, Yoan Wissa just putting his hand up to apologise there. He probably could have been a little bit quicker in getting rid of that. But once he wins that ball off Lewis Hall, he should have just punted it long rather than trying to turn back inside his own penalty area. And that allows Hall just to force the ball off the young Ukrainian and win Newcastle a corner.
Win Newcastle a corner indeed, and their first corner of the game. It's one apiece in corners. Now, Jacob Murphy, looks like he's coming out to the near side to take the corner. The big men forward. The camera pans to, of course, Dan Burn. He's the obvious target. The big man in the centre, everyone back for Brentford. It's actually going to be short. 1-2, back to Murphy. Back to Lewis Hall, 25 yards up from goal. Sweeps into the back post. Doesn't look too bad. Flecken chose to punch, played the safer option. Bit of a rinse and repeat the Nick Pope one we saw earlier. Brentford just like they had a chance to break there, but the ball out wasn't the best. It's now on the near side. Alexander Isak, 20 yards from the Brentford goal. Chops back into Lewis Hall. Good defensive structure from Brentford, though. They've held a good shape. It's given Newcastle something to think about. Isak down the line for Lewis Hall. Question mark of offside. I don't think he was, though. Newcastle still on it. Flag stays down. Heart of the Brentford half is Sean Longstaff, moving it out to the right-hand side this time. 36 minutes on the clock. Brentford 2, Newcastle 2. Newcastle won themselves a throw on the far side, and it's pretty much a tennis match, isn't it? It's after you, Claude, after you, Clarence, and it's just you have a go at attacking us, and now you have a go at attacking us. It's very evenly poised match.
Tennis or basketball is the other one that sort of springs to mind from one end to the other, but it has been very entertaining, and I still feel that overall, in terms of style points and how both teams have sort of bedded down, I still think Newcastle are making a better impression. They're getting more efforts on goal, albeit a lot of them are off target. But the visitors will be very pleased that despite having that more positive style of play and conceding 2 goals, which they could have avoided, they are level in the game and they're controlling possession again.
Joelinton dropping his left shoulder away from his man, sweeps out to the near side. Harvey Barnes, the scorer of the Newcastle's second goal, runs at Van der Berg, runs into the box. He's dropped his left shoulder really nicely. Ball into the back post, header comes in, roof of the net, had a half a yard. Jacob Murphy was really difficult to get your head over that ball. It had a lot of flight on it. Probably did the best he could in that situation, but once again, Jacob Murphy just in that slight area of space at the back post.
Yeah, well, again, we're looking at this. I think that Isak was expecting a cutback. I mean, he wasn't marked at all. It would have been difficult for Barnes to be able to do that just because he had Van der Berg right on him. But the ball over towards Murphy, and if anything, he's sort of still rising as he heads it. He wasn't in an ideal position there, really, Murphy, but it will happen, of course, in the blink of an eye, so it's easy to criticise that once we've seen the replay. Who knows? I mean, you put Isak in exactly the same position. Do you think he gets that one on target?
It's all about height for me, I think, but the anticipation and for scoring goals for Isak may have just been the difference maker there. Having a natural goal scorer in that position may have just made a dividends for Newcastle. But it's a Brentford goal kick, which they've taken. It's moving out to that far side. Ethan Pinnock is going to hook the ball left-footed down the line for Igor, who rose very well, the big man up front, and couldn't find a man though. Longstaff down the line looking for Murphy, too much on that one. And I mean, it's probably a very difficult question to ask, but between Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe, who do you think of the two managers would be happier right now?
I still think it'll be Eddie Howe. I think that he would say that his side are playing more like the home team, really, in terms of dictating more of the pace. Brentford are responding with their moments of attack, but really Newcastle are the ones I think who are setting the stall out in this game, and Brentford are trying to respond to it. And here they go now with Mbeumo. But yeah, I think overall Eddie Howe will be the happier one.
Mbeumo just on the far side this time. He's on the left-hand side. And looks like the flag may have just gone up. Simon Hooper, right arm up in the air, indicates offside against that man, Bryan Mbeumo. And yeah, maybe just gone a slight bit too second. He's caught on the wrong side of his man. Of course, 2 other games in the Premier League going on as we speak. The Merseyside derby was postponed at the 12:30 kickoff, and so this is the first piece of Premier League action today. Aston Villa are 1-0 up through John Duran at home to Southampton, and Crystal Palace 1, Man City 1 after Crystal Palace took the lead. And of course, Brentford 2, Newcastle 2. 4 fantastic goals at the Gtech. Witnessing a fantastic game. 6 minutes from the break plus any additional. I couldn't imagine there'd be too much time added on unless something serious did happen from now until the break. I think maybe a minute or 2.
Well, we've had 4 goals and 1 injury, so I'm thinking, 2 to 3 minutes would probably be about right. I think any more than that, I'd be surprised. Although I've just noticed in the last couple of weeks, they just seem to be getting a little bit more strict with the added on time. Just seem to be adding a few more minutes on at the end of games, perhaps just to try and remind all the teams that they need to be a little bit better with their timekeeping.
Yeah, it's a good point. Joelinton did take a knock, and there was a drinks break for a couple of minutes. Vaden might, so he might be absolutely correct there in that one. But yeah, 5.5 minutes to go till half time. Brentford 2, Newcastle 2. Brentford have led twice and Newcastle come back into this game. Newcastle have not led in this game as of yet, but they do have themselves a free kick. Joe Linton, the Brazilian, being chopped down just inside his own half. It's won his side a free kick. Like I say, Brentford have abysmal record against Newcastle. 1 draw and 5 losses, so this is the first time they're looking to beat Newcastle, but Newcastle have only kept 1 clean sheet in 13 trips to London, and that record continues. So it's an abysmal record for conceding goals down in the big smoke for them. Mark Flecken just on the edge of his 6-yard box, going to loft the ball forward. Very windy day, of course, storm in England, so the ball high up and hanging in the London sky. And looks like Brentford have themselves a throw on the near side. Dan Burn looking to clear it with his big left foot, just slices it out of play. And just inside the Newcastle half, Brentford have themselves a throw back to Van der Berg. And now to Nathan Collins, who's chose to go back to the man between the sticks, then Brentford number 1, Flecken. He's going to opt to go high in the air, hanging, looking for Mbeumo, headed back from Hull, only finds the feet of Wissa, shrugged off it from Bruno Guimaraes, big wag of the right finger from Simon Hooper, no free kick given, deemed it fair enough. Guimaraes to Livramento, ball's on halfway, just on the far side, looking down the line is Murphy, and it hits Ethan Pinnock, and out for a throw for Newcastle on the far side. Fabian Schär just on the ball now. And Paul, I think you're absolutely right that Newcastle seem to be having the majority of the ball. It's obviously naturally more, you deem it as the home side having more of possession, but I do think you don't always have to have the possession, most of the possession in football, where Brentford are so dangerous on the attack that when they do get the ball, like I talk about, Dan Burn trying to clear it, Wissa hot on his heels, when they do get the ball and running at the Newcastle back line, they do look dangerous. They
do, absolutely, and I think that Brentford certainly have got points and wins against teams where they've had a lot less possession, even at home. But the worry for me with Brentford is that they're not the best team at soaking up pressure. They're good at trying to win the ball back and attacking, but when they actually have to sit back and soak up pressure for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, traditionally they don't do it too well. But wait and see, because they're on the attack now.
Nice ball too, Bryan Mbeumo took it down so fantastically. It's like Velcro, made it look very easy. Drops it back to Van der Berg, just a nice one too. Gives it to Mbeumo. He's got something to think about. He has 3 Newcastle bodies in front of him. Drops his shoulder. He's asking too much of himself. Goal kick in the end. I mean, I wouldn't even say for his standards, for any standard. The touch wasn't good enough. You see what he was going for, but up against 3 lads. I don't think that's a coincidence that 3 Newcastle bodies were sat in front of Bryan Mbeumo. I think that may just be a tactic.
No, absolutely. And the fact that he's so reliant on that left foot, as good as a left foot it is, he has no right foot really for crossing or shooting. So they know that as long as they keep him on that right-hand side, they can restrict what he does, and that proved to be the case as Hall now sends a lovely ball into the box, across from Barnes, who tries to go towards the back post. Pinnock is there with the block, and Newcastle with the corner.
Yeah, Barnes running across that back 4. The only man that caught him was Pinnock. Reacted slightly too late, kept him onside though. Lovely ball by Hall. What Barnes was going from, not quite sure. There was no one in the area. May have just been looking for that weaker foot shot that he didn't quite catch. But second corner of the game for Newcastle. They went short with the first one. Be Jacob Murphy, rinse and repeat on the near side once again to come over and take this one. Of course, big men in the box. They didn't send it in the first time. Not known for scoring from direct free kicks, Newcastle, at the best of times. But Jacob Murphy on this one, 2 arms up in the air, only indicates that you're going to go to the front post, and he's gone short once again. Alexander Isak, 1-2. It looks like it's a repeat of what they went for last time. Out to the Lewis Hall. It's gone out to the back post. Really poor defensive header. Shot across goal. Really tight angle. Really poor defensive header though. Should never been given the chance. I think it was Guimaraes, and Isak taking too long on it. Has won his team a throw-in.
That header from Pinnock, if that was a Newcastle player, I'd be praising him for such a superb header in the opposition box to try and extend the attack. But how a Brentford centre-back thought that was the right thing to do there, heading it on the angle to the edge of his own penalty area after an opposition corner. It was just so bad from Pinnock, and Brentford get away with that.
Yeah, a bit lazy, wasn't it? The way he's gone under it. Found a Newcastle man, but they're still in possession. Looking to finish on a flourish of the Magpies with a minute plus any additional to go. Bruno Guimaraes takes a tumble. Joe Linton gets it underway early. Murphy stays out on this left-hand side. He's taking a drop of the left shoulder. Ball comes in the box, deflected. Mark Flecken reacted really well because his weight was going one way and the ball went the other. And in the end, it may have just been sneaking in.
No, absolutely. I think that the fact that Flecken's got to do that, I like to say that De Gea-style save with his foot low down, tells me that he didn't have any time at all to get his hand to it. He wasn't expecting that ball to end up where it did. So it's a credit to the effort from Murphy, and also credit to Flecken for reacting after the deflection.
Newcastle throw. Lewis Hall, of course, an England international now. The last international break did represent his country. Few and far between in the left-back position, so there is a gap in the market there for the young man. Only 19, 20 years old, Lewis Hall. Such a fantastic future if he plays his cards right. Fabian Schär looking over the top three. He's out well read and tracked by Ethan Pinnock. Took it down first time neatly as well, finding Lewis Potter. Nice triangle play for Brentford. Maybe a chance to get forward. 10 seconds till we hit the 45-minute mark, just inside their own half. Slowing the game down is Norgaard. Maybe happy to get into the break, but that's a lovely touch around the corner. Finds for Carvalho, bringing them into the game. A good bit of space, moving it on to Mbeumo. Corner of the box, outside the football, not the best one, didn't catch it right. The idea was there, the execution definitely wasn't. But Brentford back on the attack. Norgaard, he's just feeding it over to this near side. 3 minutes added on. Paul was absolutely correct. 3 minutes to go until we hit Simon Hooper's half-time whistle. And just playing it around. And it just seems like now Brentford happy just to slow the game down. And am I right in saying that maybe they're just happy to see this half-time whistle?
Yes, absolutely. I'd just keep the ball now, I think, would be the idea for Brentford in this injury time period, but they've managed to lose it just as we were saying that. It's Barnes' ball into the middle, which is given away, and straight away Newcastle then give the ball back to Brentford, so still have a chance in now for the home side.
And Mbeumo seems to be popping them in all sorts of angles. The danger man for Brentford just drops it back to his skipper, Norgaard, in the heart of the Newcastle half. The positive for Brentford is there is vulnerability there when they do come forward. There is gaps, and they're just exploiting one now on the near side. Ball over the top. Ball comes in, taking the sting out of it from Harvey Barnes' block, and Lewis Hall able to clear his lines. Brentford just sniffing a bit of danger here. Maybe fancy getting the ball back into the box, just sweeping it to Norgaard once again. And finds Carvalho in a pocket space on the edge of the box. Stabbed out to the near side, and Mbeumo pick it up. We've played a minute and a half. We're halfway through. The additional 3 remain the same as we were. Half-time hit at Villa Park. Aston Villa 1-0 to the good. Cross it. Bruno Guimaraes. Now a chance for Newcastle to get forward. Joe Linton. That's a nice ball down the line. Harvey Barnes at full sprint. Room to roam. He's roaming down the left-hand side. First time left-footed ball. You can see what he's going for. Trying to find Isak, but well tracked in the end. But every time both teams attack, there is vulnerability there at the back.
There is, absolutely, because both teams like to send so many players forward that as soon as they lose the ball unexpectedly, they're forced to sort of track back, and it gives the opposition space to try and force the attack. That last save we saw from Flecken, by the way, it did take a deflection, which just took it a little bit closer to his near post.
That man Flecken just sweeping the ball out, asking a little bit of Pinnock in the left-hand side of his own box, but he controlled it very neatly. Gets it under his spell. Brentford still on the ball, stabbed forward to Wissa. Then front 3, just trying to track them is so difficult, never mind defending against it. Must be so hard to try and mark against. Wissa picking up on the left-hand side, 30 seconds to go, half a minute of the first half to play. Norgaard stabs it inside, taking the midfield out of the game. Not a bad one, but Carvalho running into a number of bodies, can't get his pass off. Longstaff just plays it out to the far side to another England international in Livramento, getting at full pace here, picking up with a head of steam. Is he clipped? He is. I'm not sure whether he was looking for it. It was a bit soft, but gets the free kick to end the first half and maybe a chance to get the ball in the box. First yellow card of the game goes the way of King Lewis Potter.
Yeah, I mean, if Lewis Potter's got to get booked for that because he doesn't get the ball. He's stopping a good run there from the Newcastle man. I mean, it's quite soft on the one hand, but then there's a little bit of a rake there as well from Lewis Potter, so he really wanted to make sure that he committed the foul, and the referee quite rightly books him for it. Getting a replay now of that last effort from about 5 minutes ago where the ball was put in and inexplicably Pinnock headed it across his own penalty area.
So we have ourselves to win the first half, a Newcastle free kick. Looks like they'll play it forward early to Isak, right hand side of the box. Shot come cross, looking for Longstaff. And, well, I think he was trying to cross it in, but it looks like Simon Hooper has blown for half-time. A very entertaining first half. Half-time, Brentford 2, Newcastle 2.